Beneath the shimmering waters of the Indian Ocean, a silent contest of power is unfolding. The vast blue stretches that once carried spices, silk, and explorers are now becoming the stage for one of the greatest rivalries of the 21st century, the growing naval standoff between India and China. While much of the world's attention is drawn to land borders in the Himalayas, or to tensions in the South China Sea, an equally important drama is playing out at sea, one that could decide not just the balance of power in Asia, but the very future of global trade, security, and diplomacy. The question that echoes louder each day is this: who really controls Asia's sea lanes, India or China? To understand the gravity of this standoff, we must remember the significance of the Indian Ocean itself. More than 80% of global trade by volume passes through maritime routes, and a significant portion of that goes through the Indian Ocean. Energy supplies from the Middle East, manufactured goods from Asia, raw materials from Africa, all of them sail across this ocean. Whoever dominates these waters has leverage not just over nations in the region, but over the entire world economy. For centuries, control of the seas has meant control of global destiny, and both India and China know this very well. That is why their contest is not about a simple standoff, but about who defines the future order in Asia. India, with its central location along the Indian Ocean, has always been seen as the natural guardian of these waters. With over 7,500 kilometers of coastline, key naval bases stretching from Gujarat to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and historical ties with seafaring routes, India is geographically blessed to play this role. Its navy, one of the most powerful in Asia, has been modernizing steadily, with aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines, and advanced destroyers forming the backbone of its maritime presence. For New Delhi, the Indian Ocean is not just a trade route. It is the nation's lifeline, the highway through which its energy, commerce, and security flow. But China has emerged as the challenger. Over the past 2 decades, Beijing has transformed its navy from a coastal defense force into a blue water fleet capable of projecting power far from home. The Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean is no longer symbolic. It is real and expanding. From the naval base in Djibouti to port investments in Gwadar in Pakistan, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and partnerships in the Maldives, China is building what many describe as the string of pearls, a chain of ports and bases that gives it strategic reach across the Indian Ocean. For India, this looks less like commerce and more like encirclement, a creeping expansion of Chinese influence into waters that New Delhi has long considered its natural sphere. This is where the standoff takes shape. On one side, India is stepping up its naval patrols, conducting exercises with partners like the United States, Japan, and Australia under the Quad framework, and reinforcing its outposts in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which sit like a dagger at the entrance of the Malacca Strait, the world's busiest shipping lane. On the other side, China is sending more warships through these very lanes, conducting submarine patrols, and using its Belt and Road Initiative to secure access to ports that can double as military logistics hubs. Every move by one side triggers counter-moves by the other, raising the tension beneath the calm waves. What makes this contest so gripping is that it is not just about India and China. It is about the entire Indo-Pacific. The United States sees India as a key partner in containing Chinese ambitions. Washington's Indo-Pacific strategy is built on the idea of a free and open region where no single power can dominate. By boosting naval ties with India, selling advanced defense equipment, and conducting joint exercises, the U.S. is signaling that it wants New Delhi to take a bigger role in maritime security, Japan and Australia to have deep stakes in ensuring that sea lanes remain open and not controlled by Beijing. In this way, the India-China standoff is pulling in global players, making the Indian Ocean the centerpiece of 21st century geopolitics. Yet, India faces challenges. China's economy is larger, its naval buildup faster, and its ambitions global, while India has the advantage of geography and strong partnerships. It must overcome its own bureaucratic hurdles, defense procurement delays, and budgetary constraints to keep pace. The Indian Navy's modernization plans have often been slowed down, while China launches new warships at a pace unmatched by any other country. This asymmetry is why the contest is not just about who has more ships, but about who has smarter strategy, better alliances, and stronger resolve. For the common citizen, it may be hard to see why these distant waters matter. But the reality is simple. The price of fuel in your car, the goods in your market, the jobs in your factories all depend on secure sea lanes. Tensions in the Indian Ocean escalate. If trade routes are disrupted, the impact will be felt in every home from Mumbai to New York, from Beijing to Berlin. That is why this naval rivalry has global consequences. And that is why both India and China are unwilling to back down. The narrative of control is also about prestige. For India, being the guardian of the Indian Ocean is not just about defense. It is about fulfilling its destiny as a leading global power. For China, breaking through India's dominance in these waters is about proving that it cannot be contained, that it can extend its power across oceans. In many ways, this is a psychological battle as much as a strategic one. Each naval exercise, each port investment, each submarine patrol is a message to the rival, to allies, and to the world. One must also consider the smaller nations of the Indian Ocean region. Countries like Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, and Seychelles find themselves caught in the middle. They welcome investments from both India and China, but they also fear being dragged into a larger rivalry. For India, these nations are part of its natural neighborhood, linked by history and culture. For China, they are stepping stones in its grand maritime strategy. The competition for influence in these small but strategically located states adds another layer of tension. To the naval standoff, as this contest intensifies, there are moments of cooperation too. India and China are not officially at war, and both sides know the dangers of direct conflict at sea. They continue to trade massively on land, and they participate in global institutions together. But beneath this surface cooperation lies mistrust. Every time an Indian naval officer sees a Chinese submarine in the Indian Ocean, or a Chinese commander tracks an Indian warship near the Malacca Strait, the mistrust deepens. And mistrust, history shows us, is often the spark that lights the fire of conflict. The question, then, is not just who controls Asia's sea lanes today, but who will control them tomorrow. Will India's central geography and strong alliances allow it to maintain dominance? Or will China's relentless naval expansion tilt the balance in its favor? The answer is not simple, because control at sea is not about a single battle. It is about endurance, logistics, alliances, and the will to sustain presence over decades. History tells us that the nation that commands the seas commands the future. India and China both know this, and that is why neither is willing to cede ground. For now, the Indian Ocean remains contested space. Indian warships patrol its waters. Chinese vessels sail in increasing numbers, and the world watches closely. Every drill, every deployment, every new base adds to the story. The naval standoff may not make headlines as dramatic as land clashes, but in many ways it is even more important. Because the Himalayas decide borders, but the oceans decide empires. So as we look across the blue expanse of the Indian Ocean, we are not just looking at water. We are looking at the stage of history, the crossroads of trade, and the chessboard of power. And on that chessboard, two players are locked in a contest that will define Asia's future. The question remains, in this naval standoff, who will blink first, India or China? And more importantly, who will write the next chapter of control over Asia's sea lanes?